the alien queen's daughters disappeared, and a human became her final guardian. Part 1. Daniel Cooper stood at his post near the outer corridor of Harmony Point Station. He watched the crowds move past him. Diplomats from a dozen worlds walked by in their fine clothes and strange bodies. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had shapes that Daniel could not describe with human words. He had worked security on this station for 3 years now. He had seen many important visitors come and go, but he had never seen anyone like Queen of the. She walked through the main hall with 40 guards around her. Her body was tall and covered in a hard shell that shone purple under the station lights. She had 4 arms and large eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 colors at once. Behind her walked 3 smaller figures, her daughters, the princesses of an empire that controlled 40 star systems. Daniel was just a small part of the security team. His job was to watch the outer areas and report anything strange. He would never get close to the royal family. He was not important enough for that. They had come to Harmony Point for peace talks with their old enemies, the Collective. The 2 empires had fought wars for centuries. Now they were trying to end the fighting. The whole galaxy was watching. Daniel finished his shift and returned to his small room. He ate a simple meal and slept for a few hours. When he woke up, his communication device was flashing red. Emergency. He dressed quickly and ran to the security center. Other guards were already there, talking in fast and worried voices. Something bad had happened. The chief of security stood on a platform and raised his hand for silence. His face was pale. "Last night someone released a poison gas in the royal suite," he said. "The gas was made to effect only. Queen survived, but she was unable to move for several hours. When she woke up, her 3 daughters were gone. Her personal guards were dead." Daniel felt his stomach turn cold. The princesses had been taken, children stolen from their mother while she lay helpless. "The station is now in full lockdown," the chief continued. "No ship leaves without inspection. We are checking all security recordings. The fleet is on its way. We have maybe 40 hours before they arrive." Daniel understood what that meant. If the princesses were not found, they would tear the station apart looking for them. They might even start a war. He went to his assigned area and began his patrol, but his mind kept working on the problem. Someone had planned this attack carefully. They knew the station. They had the poison made specially for them. Later that day, Daniel sat in the security office and watched the recordings from the night before. He saw masked figures moving through the maintenance corridors. They carried the 3 unconscious princesses toward a docking bay. Then the recording ended. The figures had reached a ship and escaped before anyone knew what had happened. Other guards had watched this same recording many times. They found nothing useful. The masks hid all faces. The clothes were plain and common. There was nothing to identify the kidnappers. But Daniel noticed something else. One of the masked figures walked with a limp. The left leg dragged slightly with each step. It was a small thing, easy to miss, but Daniel had seen that walk before. Years ago, when Daniel served in the human military, he had worked with a man who walked exactly like that. The man had left the military and joined a mercenary group called the Red Circuit. They were killers for hire. They worked for anyone who paid them enough. Daniel sat back in his chair and thought carefully. If the Red Circuit was involved, this was not a political attack. This was a job. Someone had paid them to take the princesses. But who? And why? He needed to tell someone. He tried to contact his supervisor, but the man was too busy with other problems. He tried to reach the station administrator, but she was in meetings with angry commanders. Daniel went to the diplomatic wing. He wanted to share his information with the queen herself, but when he reached the entrance, guards blocked his path. "No humans allowed," one of them said. "Commander has ordered it." Daniel saw Commander standing behind the guards. He was a large with a dark shell and eyes that burned with anger. He looked at Daniel like he was looking at an insect. "You humans built this station," Commander said. "You designed its security, and now my queen's children are gone. I think humans are responsible for this crime." "I have information that might help find them," Daniel said. "Human lies," Commander replied. "Go away before I have you arrested." Daniel had no choice. He walked away from the diplomatic wing, but he did not give up. Somewhere in that wing, a mother was waiting for news of her stolen children. Daniel had information that could help her. He just needed to find a way to reach her. That night, Daniel searched the station's cultural database. He read everything he could find about customs and traditions. After many hours, he found something interesting. In culture, any person could ask to speak with the monarch directly. They called it a truth offering. If someone had information to share freely, without wanting payment or reward, the monarch was required to hear them. Daniel memorized the ritual words. He studied the proper way to bow and speak. It was a risk. If he did it wrong, they might kill him. But he could not just stand by and do nothing while children suffered. He made his decision. Tomorrow, he would find a way past the guards. He would speak the ancient words and hope the queen would listen. A mother needed answers. Daniel was going to give them to her. The alien queen's daughters disappeared, and a human became her final guardian. Part 2. Daniel spent the whole night planning his approach. He knew the station well after 3 years of work. He knew which corridors the guards used and which ones they ignored. He knew the maintenance paths that connected different sections of the station. In the early morning, when most of the station was quiet, Daniel moved through the back corridors. He wore his security uniform so he would not look suspicious. He carried his identification badge in clear view. He reached a maintenance shaft that ran above the diplomatic wing. It was dusty and dark inside. Daniel crawled through it slowly and carefully. Below him, he could hear voices speaking in their clicking language. He found an access panel that opened into a storage room. From there, he could see the main corridor that led to the queen's chambers. 4 guards stood outside her door. Commander was not among them. Daniel took a deep breath. He walked out of the storage room and moved toward the guards. They saw him immediately. Their weapons came up. "Stop there, human," one guard ordered. Daniel stopped. He raised his hands to show he held no weapons. Then he spoke the words he had memorized from the cultural database. "I come bearing truth for the queen. I ask nothing in return. By the old law, I request to be heard." The guards looked at each other in confusion. These were ancient words. They had not heard them spoken in a very long time. "You know our customs?" one guard asked. "I know that a mother is suffering," Daniel said. "I know that I have information that might ease that suffering. I ask only to speak with her." Before the guards could decide what to do, a door opened behind them. Queen stepped into the corridor. Her eyes, which could show 1,000 colors, were dark with grief. She had not slept since her daughters were taken. "What is this noise?" she asked. The guards bowed low. "This human claims the right of truth offering my queen." Looked at Daniel. She was much taller than him. Her 4 arms hung at her sides. In her eyes, Daniel saw pain and exhaustion and a small spark of curiosity. "You know our ancient customs," she said. "That is surprising for a human." "I learned them last night," Daniel admitted. "I needed a way to reach you." "Why?" "Because I have information about who took your daughters, and no one else will listen to me." Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. Commander appeared, his dark shell gleaming under the lights. When he saw Daniel, his eyes burned with fury. "Guards, arrest this human," he ordered. "No," Queen said. Her voice was quiet but filled with power. "He has invoked the truth offering. I will hear him." "My queen, he is human. He cannot be trusted." "The law does not ask about species, Commander. It asks only about truth." She turned to Daniel. "Come, speak your truth, but know this, human, if you have come to lie or deceive, I will kill you myself." Daniel followed her into her chambers. The room was large and filled with strange plants and soft lighting. Commander followed them, his anger barely controlled. Daniel told the queen everything. He described the way one kidnapper walked with a limp. He explained about the Red Circuit mercenaries and their history. He told her that this group worked only for money. They had no loyalty to any government or cause. "This means the attack was not done by humans as a species," Daniel said. "Someone hired these mercenaries. Someone paid them to take your daughters. It could be anyone, human or even." Queen was silent for a long moment. Commander stepped forward. "This is a trick," he said. "He is trying to shift blame away from his own kind." "Why would I risk my life for a trick?" Daniel asked. "If I wanted to deceive you, I could have stayed safe and silent. I came here because I could not stand by while children suffer." The queen raised one of her 4 hands. Silence fell. "You speak of risk," she said to Daniel. "Do you understand what you have done by invoking the truth offering?" "I understand I might die if you think I am lying." "More than that." The queen's eyes shifted to a deeper color. "By our law, you have made yourself my voice of truth. You are now bound to investigate in my name. If you succeed, you earn honor. If you fail or betray me, you die. There is no middle path." Daniel felt cold inside. He had not known this part of the custom, but it was too late to turn back now. "I accept," he said. Commander laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. "Foolish human, you have just signed your death warrant. You will find nothing, and then I will enjoy watching you die." Queen ignored her commander. She walked to a small table and picked up a device. It was a communication unit, shaped to fit hands. "Take this," she said, handing it to Daniel. "It will let you contact me directly. I cannot officially support your search. That would make me look weak. But I give you this phrase in our language. Speak it to any loyal and they will know you act with my authority." She spoke a series of clicking sounds. Daniel tried to memorize them. "The mercenaries you describe," the queen continued. "Do you know where they operate?" "I have ideas. Old contacts from my military days. I can find them." "Then go, find my daughters, bring them home." Her voice cracked slightly on the last words. For just a moment, she was not a powerful queen. She was just a mother whose children had been stolen. Daniel bowed his head. "I will find them or I will die trying." He left the diplomatic wing with the communication device hidden in his jacket. Commander watched him go with eyes full of hate. Daniel knew the commander would try to stop him. He would need to move fast. He returned to his room and packed a small bag. He checked his savings account. He had enough money for a shuttle ticket to the outer stations. 3 hours later, Daniel left Harmony Point on a small transport ship. He was heading into dangerous space, looking for killers who had taken 3 children from their mother. He did not know if he would survive, but he knew he could not stop. Some things were more important than safety. The alien queen's daughters disappeared, and a human became her final guardian. Part 3. The station called Drift's End was not on any official map. It floated in empty space between star systems, far from any government's laws. Criminals, smugglers, and killers made their home here. It was exactly the kind of place where the Red Circuit would do business. Daniel arrived after 2 days of travel. His small transport ship docked at the edge of the station. He stepped off into a dark corridor that smelled of smoke and old metal. He kept his head down and walked through the crowded streets. Beings of many species moved around him. Some looked at him with hungry eyes. Others ignored him completely. Daniel kept one hand near the weapon hidden under his jacket. He needed information. He needed to find someone who knew where the Red Circuit was based now. In his military days, he had known a woman named Cass who had worked with them. If she was still alive, she might help him. Daniel found a bar in the lower section of the station. It was a dirty place with low ceilings and dim lights. He sat at the counter and ordered a drink he did not plan to finish. "I am looking for Cass," he said to the bartender. "She used to run with the Red Circuit." The bartender, a creature with gray skin and no visible eyes, made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Lots of people look for Cass. Most of them regret finding her. Tell her an old friend wants to talk. Tell her it is about children." The bartender shrugged and disappeared into a back room. Daniel waited. An hour passed. Then two. He was starting to think Cass would not come when a woman sat down next to him. She was human, about 40 years old, with short gray hair and a scar across her neck. Her eyes were hard and tired. She looked at Daniel without any warmth. "I remember you," she said. "Cooper, you were a medic in the service. And you left to join the Red Circuit." "I left the circuit 3 years ago. A job went wrong. People died who should not have died." She picked up Daniel's untouched drink and finished it herself. "Why are you looking for me?" "The Red Circuit took something. 3 children, princesses. I need to find them." Cass laughed bitterly. "You want to go against the circuit, you will die." "Maybe, but I made a promise to their mother." "The Queen." Cass looked at him with new interest. "How does a human security guard end up making promises to alien royalty?" "It is a long story. Will you help me?" Cass was quiet for a long time. She stared at the empty glass in her hands. Daniel could see she was thinking about something painful. "The job that made me leave," she finally said. "It involved children, a transport ship. The circuit was hired to capture it. No one told us there were families on board. When we found out, some of us wanted to stop, but the leaders did not care. The job was the job." She set the glass down hard. "I still see their faces sometimes, the children." "This is a chance to do something different," Daniel said. "Or a chance to get killed." But she sighed and nodded. "Fine, I know where the circuit operates from. There is an old mining base in the asteroid belt. They have used it for years. If your princesses are anywhere, they are there." She drew a small map on a piece of paper. The mining base, guard positions, entry points. She knew the layout well. "How many fighters?" Daniel asked. "Maybe 50, well-armed, professional." She looked at him seriously. "You cannot go in alone, it is impossible." "I have to try." "Then you will die." She stood up to leave, then stopped. "There is one more thing. The circuit never takes jobs without knowing who pays them. Someone with serious money hired them for this. Someone who wanted those children taken." "Do you know who?" "No, but the payment came through banking systems. That is all I know." Daniel felt a chill run through him. I had paid for this. The enemy was not outside the Empire. The enemy was inside it. He thanked Cass and left the bar. He purchased a small ship with the last of his money. It was old and slow, but it would get him to the asteroid belt. The journey took another day. Daniel spent the time checking his weapons and studying the map Cass had given him. The mining base was built into a large asteroid. There were only 2 ways inside. Both were heavily guarded. He landed his ship in a crater far from the base and continued on foot. The asteroid had no air, so he wore a protective suit. He moved slowly across the rocky surface, staying low to avoid being seen. He found a maintenance hatch that Cass had marked on her map. It was old and unused. Daniel cut through the lock and climbed inside. The corridors were dark and cold. Daniel moved through them like a ghost. He heard voices ahead and pressed himself against the wall. 2 guards walked past, talking about food and money. They did not see him. He went deeper into the base. Finally, he found what he was looking for, a locked door with 2 guards standing outside. Through a small window, he could see 3 small figures sitting in a cell. The princesses, they were alive. Daniel's heart beat faster. He was so close, but he needed more than just their location. He needed proof of who had paid for this crime. He found a computer terminal in an empty office. He connected a device that would copy all the files. The download started, but it was slow. Each second felt like an hour. Then alarms started screaming. Daniel ran. Guards appeared in the corridors, weapons raised. He fired back, trying to reach an exit. A bullet hit his leg and he fell. More guards surrounded him. They dragged him to a room and threw him against the wall. A large man with cold eyes stood over him. "Who sent you?" the man demanded. Daniel said nothing. They hit him again and again. They asked the same questions. Daniel refused to answer. He thought about the princesses in their cell. He thought about their mother waiting for news. When they left him alone for a moment, Daniel reached for the communication device hidden in his boot. His fingers were slick with blood, but he managed to activate it. He spoke quickly, giving the location of the base and the names from the files he had seen. "High Counselor," he whispered into the device. "He paid for this, a coup, the traitor is." Then the guards came back, and the device was knocked from his hands. They were going to kill him soon. Daniel knew that, but he had sent the message. The Queen would know the truth. He hoped it was enough. The alien queen's daughters disappeared, and a human became her final guardian. Part 4. Queen was sitting alone in her chambers when the communication device activated. She heard Daniel's voice, weak and broken, giving her the location of her daughters. Then she heard a name that made her blood turn cold. High Counselor, one of her most trusted advisors, a member of the ruling council who had served her family for decades. He was the traitor. He had stolen her children to take her throne. The message ended with sounds of violence, then silence. Stood up slowly, her 4 hands curled into fists, her eyes shifted to the color of fire. The human had given her everything she needed. Now he was probably dying because of it. She walked out of her chambers. Commander was waiting in the corridor with several officers. "My queen, we have received word from the," began. "Counselor is calling for an emergency session of the High Council. He says your reliance on a human has weakened you, and that you should step down from the throne." "Is the one who took my daughters," said. Froze what? "My voice of truth found them. He sent me proof before they captured him, paid the mercenaries. This was never an attack from outside. It was a coup from within." His face changed. He had disliked the human, but he was loyal to his queen. The news that a counselor had betrayed them shook him deeply. "What are your orders?" he asked. "Prepare my fastest warship. I am going to get my daughters." "Let me send a full fleet. We can destroy the mercenary base completely." "A fleet takes time to gather. My children have already waited too long." Started walking toward the docking bay. "I will go now, alone if I must." Followed her. "Then I am coming with you." They reached the docking bay where a sleek warship was waiting, boarded with and a small team of elite soldiers. The ship launched within minutes and flew toward the asteroid belt at maximum speed. The journey that had taken Daniel 2 days took the royal warship only 8 hours. Spent that time in silence, staring out at the stars. She thought about her daughters. She thought about the human who had risked everything for them. She hoped she was not too late for either. The mining base appeared on the sensors. It was built into a large gray asteroid, with gun turrets on the surface and patrol ships flying nearby. "They are scanning us," one of the soldiers reported. "Let them," said. "By the time they react, we will be inside." The warship dove toward the asteroid at attack speed. The turrets opened fire, but the ship was too fast. It crashed through a docking bay door and landed hard inside the base. Alarms screamed everywhere. Was the first one off the ship. She wore no armor, only the simple robes of a royal. But in her 4 hands she carried 2 curved blades that had belonged to her ancestors. The mercenaries came running with their weapons. They saw a tall alien queen standing in their docking bay, and for just a moment they hesitated. That moment cost them their lives. Moved through them like wind through grass. Her blades sang as they cut through armor and flesh. She was not fighting like a trained soldier. She was fighting like a mother who had been separated from her children for too long. And the soldiers followed her, but they struggled to keep up. The queen was driven by something beyond military skill. Every mercenary who stood in her way fell within seconds. "Where are the prisoners?" demanded from a wounded guard. He pointed down a corridor with a shaking hand. Ran. She found the cell where her daughters were held. 3 small faces looked up at her through the bars. And her children, safe, alive. "Mother," the youngest one cried. Cut through the lock and the door fell open. Her daughters rushed into her arms. She held them tightly, all 4 of her arms wrapped around them. For a long moment, the most powerful queen in the galaxy was just a mother holding her babies. "There is a human," said. "He came for us, they took him away." "Where?" "Down that hallway, they were hurting him." "Turn 2, take my daughters to the ship, keep them safe." "My queen, let my soldiers handle the human." "No, I will do this myself." She ran down the corridor her daughter had pointed to. She could hear voices ahead. Someone was being questioned. Someone was refusing to answer. She reached a heavy door and cut through it with a single swing. Inside, she found Daniel. He was tied to a chair, covered in blood. 3 mercenaries stood around him with weapons and tools. They had been trying to make him talk. The mercenaries turned when the door fell. They saw the queen and raised their weapons. They never got a chance to fire. Killed all 3 in the time it took to breathe. Her blades moved faster than eyes could follow. The mercenaries dropped to the ground without making a sound. She walked to Daniel and cut the ropes that held him. He slumped forward, barely conscious. She caught him with 2 of her arms and held him steady. "Human," she said. "Daniel Cooper, can you hear me?" His eyes opened slowly. They were filled with pain, but also with something like relief. "You got my message," he whispered. "I got your message. You found my daughters, you found the truth. He is the traitor, you have to stop him." "I know, I will deal with him." She lifted Daniel carefully. He weighed almost nothing to her strength. "But first, I am taking you home. I did not think you would come yourself. You kept faith with me when my own people did not. You nearly died for children you had never met. Did you really think I would let you die alone in this place?" Daniel tried to smile, but it turned into a cough. "I guess not." Carried him out of the base and onto her ship. Her daughters were already there, wrapped in warm blankets. When they saw Daniel, the youngest one, ran to him. "You came for us," she said, her small hand touching his face. "You are the one who came for us." "I promised your mother," Daniel said weakly. "I keep my promises." The ship flew away from the asteroid as the base burned behind them. Sat beside Daniel while the medics worked on his wounds. She did not speak, but she stayed close, watching, waiting. The human had done what her armies could not. He had found her children and exposed the traitor. Now she owed him a debt that could never be fully repaid. But she would try. The alien queen's daughters disappeared, and a human became her final guardian. Part 5. There was a place of ancient forests and towering mountains. Cities made of crystal and stone rose from the landscape. At the center of the largest city stood the Great Hall of Judgment, where the fate of empires was decided. Queen arrived with her daughters, her soldiers, and one badly wounded human. The news of her return had already spread across the planet. High Counselor was waiting for her. He stood in the great hall with dozens of supporters behind him. He had already told the other counselors that the queen was unfit to rule. He said she had abandoned her duties to chase after a human fool. He said she had brought shame to their species. Daniel watched from a medical bed in the royal palace. The doctors had fixed his worst wounds, but he was still weak. He could barely stand without help. "You should rest," a nurse told him. "The queen will handle this." "No," Daniel said. He pushed himself up from the bed. "I started this. I need to see it finished." He dressed in simple clothes that had provided. They were clothes, soft and dark, made for someone with 2 arms instead of 4. He walked slowly to the great hall, using the walls for support. When he entered, every eye turned to look at him. Hundreds of filled the chamber. They had never seen a human in this sacred place before. Many of them looked at him with disgust. Others looked curious. A few looked impressed that he could stand at all after what he had suffered. Queen stood at the center of the hall. Counselors stood across from her. The other counselors sat in a circle around them. "This human is proof of your weakness," was saying. "You trusted an inferior species. You gave him authority over matters. You have forgotten what makes us strong." "What makes us strong," replied, "is loyalty and honor, not fear and treachery." "What treachery? I have served this throne for 40 years. Raised her hand. A screen appeared behind her, showing the files that Daniel had stolen from the mercenary base. Financial records, communications, orders with personal codes on them. "You paid the Red Circuit to kidnap my daughters," said. "You planned to use their disappearance to destroy me. You would have let them die if it served your purpose." The hall erupted in noise. Counselors shouted at each other. Guards moved toward, but his supporters blocked them. The situation was turning dangerous. Saw that he was trapped. The evidence was too clear to deny. So he did what desperate traitors always do. He reached for tradition. "I invoke the right of challenge," he shouted. "By ancient law, I demand trial by combat. Let the gods decide who is worthy to rule." Silence fell over the hall. The right of challenge was old. It had not been used in centuries, but it was still law. Nodded slowly. "I accept, name your champion." "I will fight myself," said. He was large and strong, a warrior in his youth. He still knew how to kill. "And your champion?" asked with a cruel smile. "You cannot fight yourself, my queen. The law forbids it. You must choose someone to stand for you." Commander stepped forward. He was the obvious choice. A trained warrior, loyal and deadly, he would crush easily. But did not look at, she looked at Daniel. "I choose my voice of truth," she said. "Daniel Cooper will be my champion." The hall exploded with outrage. A human fighting for the throne was unthinkable. It was an insult to their entire species. Laughed, "You choose a creature who can barely stand. You make this too easy." Daniel walked forward. Each step sent pain through his body, but he kept walking until he stood before the queen. "I can do this," he said quietly. "I know," she replied. "I would not have chosen you otherwise." The combat circle was cleared. Stood on one side, tall and powerful, his 4 arms ready for battle. Daniel stood on the other side, small and broken, holding a simple blade. The fight began. Attacked with overwhelming force. His arms moved in patterns that Daniel could not predict. The first blow knocked Daniel across the circle. The second opened a cut on his shoulder. The third sent his weapon flying from his hand. "Stay down," human said. "Accept your death." Daniel got up. Hit him again. Daniel fell, then got up. The cycle repeated. Again and again Daniel was knocked down. Again and again he rose. The watching began to grow quiet. They had expected a quick execution. Instead, they were seeing something they did not understand. The human would not stay down. No matter how much damage he took, he kept rising. Grew tired. His attacks became slower, less precise. He was used to opponents who gave up after the first few blows. He did not know how to fight someone who simply refused to stop. Daniel saw his chance. When swung too wide, Daniel moved inside his guard. He struck at the joints where his armor was weak. Once, twice, 3 times. Stumbled, Daniel grabbed a fallen blade and held it to the traitor's throat. "Yield," Daniel said. Blood ran down his face. His arms shook with exhaustion, but his voice was steady. Looked into the human's eyes and saw no fear, only determination, only will. "I yield," whispered. Daniel dropped the blade and collapsed. The hall was completely silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, a sound began. Hands striking the floor in the pattern of respect. The sound grew until it filled the entire chamber. Queen walked to Daniel and knelt beside him. Her hands were gentle as she lifted his head. "You have honored me," she said. "You have honored all of us." "Did I win?" Daniel asked, his eyes barely open. "You won." She stood and addressed the hall. "This human came to me with truth when my own counselor offered only lies. He risked his life to save my children. He fought for my throne when he could not even stand without pain. If this is weakness, then I welcome it." She looked down at Daniel. "From this day forward, Daniel Cooper is no longer just my voice of truth. He is my guardian. He stands equal to any warrior in this empire. Anyone who threatens him threatens me." Later, after the celebrations and the trials, after was taken away in chains and the princesses were safely home, Daniel stood on a balcony overlooking the capital. He wore the uniform of a royal guardian now, purple and silver, with the queen's symbol on his chest. Small footsteps approached. He turned to find the youngest princess standing behind him. "Will you stay with us?" she asked. "For as long as your mother needs me." "Good." She walked to his side and took his hand. "I like you. You are kind." Daniel smiled. He had come to space looking for work. He had found something much more valuable, a purpose, a family, a place where he belonged. The stars stretched out before him, endless and beautiful. Somewhere out there, other humans were making their way through the galaxy, each of them carrying the same gift that had saved him, the gift of compassion, the gift of stubborn hope, the gift of a heart that refused to break. This was what it meant to be human. And it was more than enough.